Hacking this shit, stealing that info, 1% tint on my window, inside the coupe, blowing on endo, got cheap prices on real good outdoor. I was in the studio, I should get out more. I was in the truck, I should get out more. These niggas took me just like Elmo, feeling like the Rock. Serving people elbows, dark well money, free like a free throw. She done pop perk, now she in keep mode. Grand cool beam, put this shit in sports mode. Understand bad, 30 different zip codes. Little ass nigga can't handle these bit lows. I ain't talking deal when I'm speaking on Frisco. Futuristic, I caught this shit Gilmore. Bought it from a German, I get it in crypto. Hacking this shit, looking out the window, burning on shirt. West Coast bimbo, I was broke a hill, I was in limbo. I just want to slice no bread like Kimbo. I'm part big rig at my house, then call the gang, hell, empty it out. Now down bad, nobody held down. Labels off crime, so a nigga held out. If I go behind the walls, I'ma get bailed out. If you ain't tryna cop, we come same bout. Every time the gang come, shit sell out. Turn your music down when you pull in my yard. I'll put your nigga ass out on guard. Most of these niggas out here be fraud. Drop out the flash, so jumping like grass. I'll pull up in the range of a largest curve. Out 30 laptops in the basement hacking. VPN on it so the boys can't track it. Turning my son by the laptop to practice. Breaking them codes, my young nerds crackle. Shooting at Sap, can't wait these bill. Goddamn shoes just broken up scale. But baby mama just pulled up to the jail. She gon' make sure a nigga making it bail. I just made 50K from a gateway on cyberspace from an encrypted site. Damn, I'm loving the internet life. Clean finny wallet couldn't take my swipe. Swipe that root quick the other night. Then 2 hours later swipe for a flight. Hacking this shit, stealing that info, 1% tint on my window, inside the coupe, blowing on endo, got cheap prices on real good outdoor. I was in the studio, I should get out more. I was in the truck, I should get out more. These niggas took me just like Elmo, feeling like the Rock. Serving people elbows, dark well money, free like a free throw. She done pop perk, now she in keep mode. Grand cool beam, put this shit in sports mode. Understand bad, 30 different zip codes. Little ass nigga can't handle these bit lows. I ain't talking deal when I'm speaking on Frisco. Futuristic, I caught this shit Gilmore. Bought it from a German, I get it in crypto. Hacking this shit, looking out the window, burning on shirt. West Coast bimbo, I was broke a hill, I was in limbo. I just want to slice no bread like Kimbo. I'm part big rig at my house, then call the gang, hell, empty it out. Now down bad, nobody held down. Labels off crime, so a nigga held out.
Warning. The following content contains strong language and may not be suitable for children. This content is primarily for adults as this is a trucking channel and truckers have filthy mouths. Please don't tweak if I say viewer discretion is advised.
All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good afternoon. Good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Good afternoon if you're in the Midwest. You're on the west side of things. Good morning still. How's everybody doing? Come on in. Make sure you guys hit that like button. All right, let's get this roll call out the way so we can get to it. You know, I like these morning, afternoon cook-ups, man. I might start doing these morning, afternoon cook-ups more often instead of waiting to 7, 8 o'clock at night. You know, I did two yesterday. I did a morning cook-up and I did an evening cook-up. But all right. Shout out to D. Jenkins. What's going on? Great polo. Shout out to all the shout out to Pippi. Shout out to all the moderators. What's going on? Andrew Green. What's going on? William Sweet. What's going on? Lou Jackson. What's going on? Brandon Williams. Kelvin Birch. Kenny. What's up? What's up? What's up? Melisone. Joseph. Dade County. Rich Drew. Tapping in from the crib. How's everybody doing? All right. Let's get straight into it. So, cheap freight. I want to do something. You know me. I never back down from a challenge, man. Listen, we're gonna, who's calling me? Hold on. Send them the voicemail real quick. All right, don't call me once I'm about to cook up. Let's pin that link to the top of the chat. Listen, I'm going to open up the channel for discussion. I'm going to open the floor up for a discussion, all right? Cheap freight. What is cheap freight? Can somebody define to me what is cheap freight? I want to know what cheap freight is from the perspective of somebody in the chat. Can somebody tell me what is cheap freight? I want a definition for it. Give me a definition for cheap freight. A definition. What's the definition of cheap freight? I'm gonna wait patiently because I know it's a delay. What's cheap freight? I've been waiting. We done up the ante. What's cheap freight, man? Somebody let me know. Because I could be wrong. Listen, I could be absolutely positively wrong. Me personally, if I'm running middle mile, that shit would never come out of my mouth. I wouldn't be concerned whether it's objective, whatever. It wouldn't even come out of my mouth because I wouldn't be concerned with what everybody else is doing because I'm already coming through the door with the understanding that I'm finna compete at the highest level, and I'm gonna make sure the same thing I tell people all the time, that my operational costs are gonna be low as possible. I'm coming in the door with the understanding because I've already did everything that I needed to do to fully understand what I was getting into. I'm coming in the door swinging. Listen, number 6, do I gotta go put the 6 on? Do I gotta go get that 6? Do I have to go grab that 6 out that you did? I'm coming in the door with the 6s on. Can somebody let me know? Let me know what it is. Link is pinned to the Tiznap of the Chiznat. Lou Jackson's was in here. He made a statement earlier. Where you at, Lou? Lou! What's that, Lou from Power? Lou, wait. Where you at, Lou? Lou Jackson, where you at? Me and Lou Jackson been having this debate for 2 years now. Where you at, Lou? I seen you in the chat earlier in the live stream before I came on. What Lou Jackson said in the chat. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me, give me the definition of cheap freight. Did he delete it? Don't tell me Lou Jackson done deleted his damn. No, there it go. Hold on. Cheap freight do exist. That's my opinion. I'd rather take a loss for the day. We can get into that a little bit later too, but I want a definition. Can somebody define cheap freight from an owner-operator perspective? Link is pinned to the top of the chat. I ain't gonna do you bad. I just want you to come up here and define it for me. Or, you know what? Put it in the chat. Come up here if you want to have a discussion. If you don't want to come up here, go ahead and put the definition in the chat for me, please. Please. I got time. I'm waiting on these people to come clean up the crib, you know what I'm saying? So I got a little time. Cheap freight. Can anybody define it for me? Nobody? 5-star said, according to Midwest Box Trucking, it's freight you run for less than your CPM. Okay. Let's take that. Let's take that, 5-star. Let's take that. Let's do a case study here. So according to Midwest, now this is 5-star saying, according to Midwest Box Trucking, it's freight you run for less than your cost per mile. That will be considered cheap freight. All right, let's do a little exercise. Y'all up for an exercise? You want to have an exercise? Put a 1 in the chat. We'll do a little exercise. I made that just right this morning. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to do a little exercise. I only want to go if people want to do the exercise. All right, that's enough ones. Whatever. All right, so let's take your analogy, right? I'm a trucker guy, all right? Got it out the mud trucking, LLC. That's me. I'm got it out the mud trucking, LLC. And let's say my cost per mile is $1.50, all right? Got it out the mud trucking, LLC. My cost per mile is $1.50, right? Now I'm perusing the load board, and I come across a load for $1 a mile. My cost is $1.50. I take a load for $1 a mile. For whatever reason, I take it. Is that taking cheap freight? Is that cheap freight? Would that be classified as cheap freight? For that situation, would that be classified as cheap freight? If I'm getting out the mud trucking in this particular situation, and my cost per mile is $1.50, and I take a load for $1 a mile, would that be classified? Would we warrant that? Is that classified as get it out the mud trucking LLC taking cheap freight? Can somebody answer that for me? Is that? Am I getting it? Is that what that is? By what's that say? Bryson Strong. Bryson Strong said yes. Bryson Strong says yes. How? How is that cheap freight? If I'm getting out the mud, see, and this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. People somewhere down the line, one day there was some guy who was frustrated because he didn't know what his operational cost was. And he came to the internet, or he went to probably before the internet or before live streaming and all this shit existed back in the 2000s sometime when forums was the fucking popping thing, went in the forum and said, God damn it, these truckers out here need to stop taking this goddamn cheap freight. It was some down south trucker guy who went in a forum when he was parked at the goddamn truck stop back in the mid 2000s on his Trio. Y'all remember the Trio? Or on his Blackberry, or on his Sidekick. Y'all remember the Sidekick? He went in the goddamn forum. He's laying in the back of his truck because he was mad as hell because he didn't know his operational costs. He went in one of them forums back in the day. He said, God damn it, goddamn truckers. God damn it, stop taking this goddamn cheap freight out here. God damn it, fucking up the goddamn game. So, can somebody tell me, because Bryson Sean, because it's under your cost. So, if I'm getting out the mud truck and we doing an exercise, listen, I'm going to spend some time with this. I'm going to spend some time with this today. I'm waiting on Magdalena and the other Polish lady to come. So we got some time. I'm going to kick it with you for a minute. Explain to me how, if I'm getting out the mud trucking LLC, in context, if I'm getting out the mud trucking LLC and my operational cost per mile is $1.50 a mile, and I take a load in this particular situation at $1 a mile, it's me getting out the mud trucking LLC taking cheap freight. Explain to me why. How is that cheap freight? How is it cheap? Somebody said no. Explain to me, how is it cheap? How is it cheap? We had 10,000 up for the debate. How is that this particular situation cheap? You said yes. Now explain to me how. See, this is what I'm saying. People just say shit, and I'm not speaking to you in general, but I'm just making a point on what happens when people say shit on it. Everything that I say, I can back it up. Everything I say, I have backed up. Even if I didn't back it up right when people wanted me to, because I might have been trying to bait people. You dig what I'm saying? For the 10,000 wow. You dig what I'm saying? But I can back it up. If that's taking cheap freight, substantiate to me how. I'm waiting. Because people say this shit all the time. So what's the reason why? Give me the reason. Put it in the context how that particular situation, this particular scenario is cheap. See, me, I'm going to drop the link. I'm going to do the live streams. I'm not ducking nothing. I'm up for the debate. I'm up for the discussion because it's healthy. Let's do it. I'm not even speaking in response to the content that was put out. I'm speaking to the chat. Because guess what? It's the people in the community that hear shit online. And I'm not speaking to the content creator. I'm speaking in general because this shit been going on way before you came in, way before I came in. It was some disgruntled guy in the middle of the 2000s went in a goddamn forum and said that shit because he was operating at a loss, and people have been saying that shit forever and don't know what the hell they saying. I said it in the video last year. Stop saying that shit because you sound crazy. You know why? Because when I had the conversation with people and I asked them to substantiate what that means, this is what it is. This is all you hear. It's just people just run and say the shit. Somebody substantiate it for me. How is getting out the mud trucking LLC for the people that came in late? I'm getting out the mud trucking LLC. I just came off a Sunday night at the club. I stood on couches. I popped bottles in 1942 and I'm broke now. I'm getting out the mud trucking LLC. It's Monday. I found a load. My operational cost is $150. I take a load for $1. Now, I've been under the impression, based on the question and the response and some people in the chat, I said, is that considered taking cheap freight? And people said yes. Now, I'm asking if you're saying yes, substantiate it for me. How is that shit cheap? I can't go on unless you answer the question, so I'm asking for an explanation because I'm ignorant. If it's yes, I'm ignorant to the fact of why it is that. All right, I'm going to help you out. We had 80 people in here. Now we down to 50. People only come for the smoke. I want an answer. I'm going to sit here until I get an answer. You can't answer the question yes or no and not substantiate it for me. Cheap just means cheap. It's not that complicated. Everyone is going to want more for the amount. It ain't really that much to it, my guy, but I respect you. Okay, so check this out. That's not right. If I'm getting out the mud trucking LLC and my cost per mile is $1.50 and I take a load for $1 a mile, that means I'm operating at a 50 cent per mile deficit. So how the hell is it cheap? Seems like a pretty expensive load to me, don't you think? Seems like a pretty expensive load. How is it cheap when I'm operating at a 50 cent per mile deficit? How is this shit cheap? It's a pretty expensive load. Why? Because it's costing me to run it. How can it be considered cheap when I'm running at an exorbitant cost? It's costing me. So how is it cheap? It's pretty expensive if you ask me. That's a goddamn expensive load to run. I'm operating it at a loss. It's expensive. It's costing me to run. So how is it cheap freight? That was a goddamn expensive freight if you ask me. I lost 50 cents a mile on that shit. How can your profit margin be cheap? How can you have a cheap profit margin? That doesn't even make sense. It's cheap meaning the profit margin is cheap? That doesn't make sense. How can your profit margin be cheap? Aha! Aha! How can your profit margin be cheap? That means you're operating at a loss. That means you're operating at a loss. I looked up the definition of cheap freight because I just wanted to have a full understanding. I said maybe I'm ignorant. You know what I discovered when I looked it up? Nothing from an owner operator perspective. Whenever I looked up cheap freight, it always led back to a receiver perspective, right? As far as shipping, right? Cheap freight. For instance, I'm a mug seller. I sell mugs. I got a store or whatever, and I sell mugs. I sell a lot of mugs, right? I order my mugs wholesale from a manufacturer or a distributor. Distributors across the country, right? Part of the wholesale cost is going to include the transportation cost, right? Which is ultimately going to, determine what I'm going to be able to sell these mugs for at retail, right? So I'm looking for a way to move that freight as cheap as possible from a receiver perspective. I'm looking to move that freight cheap. Speak to a broker. They say, we can move this freight for you. There's a few different ways we can move this freight for you. The cheapest way we can move this freight for you is probably intermodal. It's going to take longer, but it's the cheapest way. Now, we can move it straight from a truck from the West Coast to the Midwest, but it's going to be more money. That freight going to cost you a little bit more to move. But we can move that freight a little bit cheaper for you if you're willing to wait a little bit longer, because we can put it on a train and we can move it across the country cheaper. Now, everywhere I looked for the definition of cheap freight, it always led back to a receiver, shipper perspective. The only places I found cheap freight conversations was online and in forums dating back to the 2000s. From owner-operators and owner-operators bickering with each other. There's no definition. The closest thing to a definition on cheap freight is from a consumer perspective, a receiver perspective. If you're an owner-operator, what you choose to run, that's your business. You're not buying no goddamn load. You betting on it. How can something that I'm losing 50 cents a mile on, I'm running at a 50 cent a mile deficit, be cheap? That sounds pretty goddamn expensive if you ask me. So how is it cheap if it's costing me? It sounds fucking expensive. I had a homie one time. He was messing with a chick. He got caught cheating on the chick. Back in the day, chicks would do goofy shit like put sugar in your tank, right? She didn't put sugar in his tank. She put a Snicker in his tank, right? The value of a Snicker back then was about 75 cents. Let's say $1, just to make it easy, right? You went out to go to work one morning. His car wouldn't start. Couldn't figure it out. Had the car towed to the shop. After they did their diagnostic, lo and behold, they found a Snicker in his tank. It cost $450 to fix it. For them to drop the tank or whatever they had to do, drop the tank, remove the Snicker, whatever. You know what he told me? That was an expensive ass Snicker. Snicker only cost $1, but that particular Snicker cost him $4.50. How is it cheap? If I'm operating at a loss, how am I taking cheap freight? Freight seems pretty expensive, right? If you choose to go out and do something that's not in the best interest of you and your company, that's your personal problem because you didn't all lease back to down one road, knowing your cost. Don't exist because it's a myth. It's a myth. I just been trying to bait somebody for $10,000. I wanted to take somebody $10. Because when you put it in perspective, how is something that you operating at a loss cheap when it's costing you? I don't run and subscribe to the shit I hear online. I do my own due diligence, which leads back to everything I say. Do your own due diligence. If something don't sound like cheap freight, what is that? So when I say, listen, stop saying it. And I always say, listen, I did a video. I could pull it up. I say, stop taking cheap freight. I say, stop saying that shit. Stop saying it. If I was running middle mile right now, those words would never get uttered out of my mouth. I wouldn't give a damn what you take. How you think I'm finna pay attention to what the next man taking when I gotta get shit done over here? I'm set up to win. I'm winning. I'm not worried about what the next person doing, what the next person doing. In actuality, I want to be the guy that you tell. Listen, I want to be the guy with the number 6. Because you're not doing what's in your best interest. You running around in forums and shit complaining about these people taking cheap freight. So people should say stop taking expensive freight. I think people should learn their operational costs, mind their business, and win. That's the point. People are so busy worrying on the internet, spending time and worried about what everybody else is doing and don't even know their own goddamn cost per mile. The same people that come up on the call-in show be the same people that say this goofy shit. And then when I come across them, don't even know they operation costs. How can you determine what and tell somebody else what they should or shouldn't be doing when you don't even know what it costs to run your goddamn shit? And then you say shit like stop taking cheap freight. Oh, I'm taking cheap freight. He took cheap freight. That shit cheap. He lost that 50 cent a mile. He ran that shit at a 50 cent a mile deficit. How can it be cheap if it costs you to run? If you spent your money running it, how is it cheap? Listen, we're going to talk about shit. Let's put the shit in the proper context, man. I can't subscribe to all that just saying shit, man. I'm going to, no. Find me a definition, a true definition in 2024 where it says what you guys subscribe to is what cheap freight is. Now let's get to this. The finger pointing. Oh man, they taking cheap freight. Have you went to each and every person that you say they? Who is they? Who are they? Because here's the thing. Everybody's saying they. Who are they? How do you know what they doing? How do you know if they taking it at a deficit? How do you know they taking it at a profit? How do you know this? Do people have crystal balls and I'm tapping into the guy with the 2016 Freightliner with Minnesota tags JBC123. Let me tap into my crystal ball and see what he's taking today. Let me hack into his DAT load board and see what he's taking today. How do you know? Who is they? Who are they? Now, I'm not saying that they don't exist because there's going to be people that are taking freight for rates less than you that are profiting. Of course, there's going to be ignorant people who don't know their cost per mile is just taking shit because the numbers seem high. They don't know what their operational cost is and they taking it at a loss. But once again, who is they? Who are they? Can somebody tell me, because I want today to be a day where y'all substantiate to me who is they We already done got the terminology down. So when I always say stop saying that shit, you sound crazy, I just explained to you why. Because how can you take something that's expensive cheap? Business owner. Now, who is they? I want to know who they is. Tell me who they is. And all this is leading down a path, but it's going to fly with some people's head. It always do. It always do. Listen, it always do. I'm not going to dumb my content down for grammar school people. You know, if I'm talking to a bunch of adults, certain things people got to comprehend. The world doesn't slow down. It keeps going forward. And I've dumbed this shit down as much as possible. I don't know how to dumb it down anymore. No, we're not waiting for somebody to call in. Somebody can say it in the chat. I know ain't nobody gonna call in. Not for this, because it's been over a year. I'm just trying to figure. Now we got that down, Pat. Don't tell me no goddamn cheap freight shit, because that shit don't even make sense if I'm operating a loss. Ain't shit cheap that's costing me a lot of money. That shit is expensive to me. If I'm running at a loss, how is it cheap? This shit is expensive. Y'all using words out of context and just running with shit and thinking it sound good. Now, who is they? Can somebody tell me who they is? They keep taking. Who are they? Where are they at? Can somebody tell me where they at so I can send them a message to see if we can get them to call in? Who are they? Goes back to what I just said here. People just hear other people saying shit and then they just say shit instead of focusing on what's in front of them. Who is they? Who are they? Who is these people? Who is these mythological people? There's always going to be people who operate at a loss. There's always going to be people who can beat you. What's the point? Okay, and so who is they? Who is they keep taking cheap freight? Where is they at? And why are we worried about them? I'm waiting on the answer. Who is they? Where they at? Somebody put it in the chat so I can go send them a ping them, see if we can get them on. I can send them the link to call in because I want to know too. I want to know who they is. Who are they? This is the thing that's been going on there. They keep taking cheap. Who is they? Shit that people just be saying shit because they heard somebody else say it and it sound good. Can't tell me they cost per mile. Don't know their operational costs. Don't know shit, but worried about they. They keep taking cheap freight. They. Think Mark worried about they? I'm not worried about they. They ain't gonna pay the bills. I'm worried about me and what I got going on. Y'all, listen, people who worried about that, you're gonna always be worried about that. You know why? Because they always gonna exist. And if you get caught up in that, then you always gonna be saying they instead of focusing on me. See what I'm saying? It's easy to just say shit, but when a person gets held up on charges, because I could be wrong, since people got the answers, be able to substantiate your answers, substantiate your claims, be able to explain and expound on your theory. I'm waiting on the answer. I want to know who they is. Who is they? Who are they? Who is them? Oh. Hold on, where's my button at? Think I went through life worried about they? Fuck them. Let them do what that. Well, let them do whatever it is that they gonna do. Whether they taking what you can't take and they taking it at profit, or whether they taking it at loss, whoever they is has nothing to do with you. The situation that's going on that you feel like you're putting the blame on they has nothing. Listen, the reason why you in the situation that you in is because of you. Point blank, period. Listen, I'm gonna say it all time and time again. You want to play the blame game? Go get a job. When you become an owner of a business, every single thing falls on you. The wins you take, you can take credit for that. But guess what? The pitfalls, you got to take credit for it too. Even if you got people working for you and they do some shit that, you know, it costs your business, you have to still take that hit. That shit is on you. Who is they? See, me, I don't just challenge other creators. I challenge you too. Don't come in my chat talking about they, who, and then I ask you who they is, and then you can't tell me who is they. And then I say, man, if my operational cost is $1.50, and I take a load at $1, is that cheap freight? Yes. Okay, explain to me how is it cheap? Because to me it's expensive. And then when I explain it to you and I put it in proper context, here you go. Because it makes sense. I do a 2 weeks focus on operational costs. People don't want to hear that shit. You don't want to hear it. You know why? Because you don't know listen, I wouldn't be surprised if some people don't know arithmetic. Because at this point, creating content for this long with a simple ass equation, cost divided miles driven equals like, how hard is that? But yet and still no one seems to get that equation. But in these forums, all in these Instagram posts and everywhere else in these chats and shit, they keep taking cheap freight. They. Who is they? Who is them? Who is them out there? Where they at? Point them out. Yeah. Yeah. I want to know who they is. Listen, man, we gonna cook. Let's cook. You want to cook? Let's cook. Point them out, big dog. You got the answers. Link still pinned to the top of the chat, or you can put. Listen, I'm showing you mercy and grace. You ain't gotta put it in. You ain't gotta hit the link. Just go ahead and put it in the chat, pimp. Go ahead and put it in the chat. Listen, I'm not gonna hold you up on charges. I've just substantiated to me. I could be wrong. Ooh wee. Ooh, boy. Well, operating at 50 cents a mile loss is cheaper than deadheading, I guess. You're absolutely right. In some cases, it may benefit a person to take something operating less to put them in a better area to pick up something that's profiting and sitting. I saw somebody in the chat earlier say, I'd rather sit. Listen, once you go out over the road, man, there's people that sit for days. Do you account how much you losing while you sitting, what's the equation on not running? What's the equation on sitting over the road in comparison to maybe operating at a slight deficit to put you in a better situation? What's the equation on that? Well, one day turns into two, turns into three. What's the equation on that? What value do you put on that? What's the value that you put on the loss? What's the negative value? This is what I'm saying. I'll never, ever, ever, ever. Listen, check this out. For people who just don't get it, they not gonna get it. Somebody told me this 2 weeks ago. It's actually a content creator, not in this space. You know, a lot of content creators in other sectors, but somebody told me a while ago, like, man, Mark, I saw somebody use your, one of your little skits. You know what I'm saying? I got my characters and my skits and shit like that. I said, man, that person don't watch me. That person got 300,000 subs and ain't even in trucking. Nah, man, I think you watch you. It's a lot of content creators that are not in trucking that watch me. Anyway, somebody that's got a platform way bigger than mine said, man, Mark, you know what? Some people just ain't gonna get it, bro. You right. You got winners, you got losers, you got the haves and the have-nots. Some people just ain't gonna get it. I'm not finna dumb my content down for people who don't get it. If you don't get it, you gotta catch up. Goes back to what I said about competition. Listen, if I'm smarter than you and you're in the space that me and we're competing and I'm smarter than you, I gotta even dumb myself down to be even with you so that you can compete against me? Nah. The reason why I'm smarter than you because I made myself smarter than you about whatever that was. Reading books, consuming information that's gonna better me, spending less time consuming information that's dumb shit. I'm doing things that are gonna give me leverage so that I can get out here and win so I don't get taken advantage of. That's the whole fucking point. You watch the goddamn live show, and this is why I get upset. You watch the goddamn live show from last night, an individual's getting taken advantage of. So I'm supposed to dumb myself down to that level. Nah, that's not the way the world works. I'm going to keep educating myself so that when I get into these situations, I know how to maneuver. I go into a dealership, listen, I ain't been in a dealership to shop for a car in over 10 years. I go online, I call my guy, here go the stock number, do the deal. This is where I need to be at. This is how I buy shit. If this is how I lease shit. This is what I want, do the deal. This is where I need to be. Don't call me until you get me here. If you can't get me here, I'm not getting it. Man, I got you 2 points away from that. Listen, call Wells Fargo. See if they can do the deal at 2%. Fucking asshole. Mark, I got you your deal. Come get your fucking car. I'm not finna walk into no dealership and not know what the APR is. Let them pull some shit up to the front and not just take it, go in the back, not ask no questions. Of course, some people ain't gonna understand it. It's their job to figure it out and try to pick up on what it is I'm saying so they can put themselves in a better position. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where one, I don't know what it's costing me to operate. at all. I'm going to have a full understanding. You're not finna hear me on forums and shit complaining about other people and other men because they're, what's the game? What is the game? Can somebody tell me what the box truck game is? I'm confused. What is this box truck game, and who is these people that they say is doing these things to these people, which is why that they feel like they struggling, because they blaming it on them. I'm still waiting. Can somebody point me in the direction of they? I see a bunch of others talk in the chat. I'm still trying to figure out who them is. Who is them people? Nick Gurr said he's going to call in. I'm at the hospital, so I can call in, but let me put in my 2 cents. You said you can call in, or you mean you can't call in? Well, first of all, if you're at the hospital, I hope everything is going well for you and or whoever you're at the hospital visiting. That's the first thing I'm going to say. I've been in trucking since '08, and since that, truck owners have been using the context for cheap freight as when people start to, I said that earlier. You probably just came in. I talked about the 2000s because this is from my research. See, Nick Gertz, I'm going to always do my research now. This is probably before you came in. I talked about going back to the 2000s in the forums. This is my research took me back to the 2000s. Now, I'm not saying it started there, but this is far back as where I found the saying of stop taking cheap freight. I traced it all the way back to the forums of 2000. So I'm glad you came in and you said that, because I said that earlier. Now, it could go back farther than that, but I traced it back to the 2000s to the forums. And it was all disgruntled drivers. Now, if I think this is a term that was a real, true trucking term, it would have a definition, right? I can't find a definition. So I can't subscribe to some term that some guy who was in middle America at a goddamn TA in 2006 who decided to hop on the Truckers Report forum and express his dissatisfaction with other people and the mythological they, instead of focusing on what he had going on in front of him and trying to figure out the reason why he was in the situation that he was in. I think a lot of people are worried about shit that don't pertain to them. I'm not worried about the next man's car note. I'm not worried about the next man's mortgage. I ain't worried about the next man's wife. I'm not worried about the next man's, paycheck. I'm not worried about none of that shit. I'm focused on what I got going on in front of me. Because if you start worrying about everybody and they and what they doing and placing the blame on mythological people and shit like that, then you just going to be stuck like Chuck and lost. And that's what it's a lot of lost people out here, especially in this box truck business. Whether they lost because they getting fed misinformation, they lost because they getting fed misinformation and they not doing their own due diligence. They not taking the time to educate themselves so that they can leverage themselves into better situations and better positions. They just want to place the blame on they, want to continue to run their truck, not knowing their cost per mile, and then the cycle repeats itself. Still waiting on they. Now, here's something I do want to talk about. And it's friendly debate. I don't hold no malice. Things that happen prior to your existence or my existence don't really pertain to what's going on today. And that's absolutely positively false. Here's why. You hear me talk about trucking, right? I try to give people an understanding. Like, it's easy to just say shit and just say it, right? But I try to put things into context for people to and give people a reason why things are the way they are. So, every now and again you hear me talk about the deregulation of trucking, right? Because that's important. It puts it into it gives you a visualization of why things are the way they are, right? The spot market, the competition. Because once this didn't exist at one point, all right? It was created, it was deregulated so that competition would exist to ultimately keep rates down. Now, the reason why from time to time I refer back to that is because people who are educated or smart or, comprehend things really well, they're going to take that lesson and understand that this market was created for this particular reason in mind. They're going to keep that in their back pocket, and they're always going to do things that's in their best interest to be able to compete and keep their operational costs low. How does that not have anything to do with what is going on today? Because without that, nobody would be in this room. Not nan one of y'all would be in here right now. Not nan one of y'all, like mama would say, not nan one of y'all would be in here. So how it don't got nothing to do with. See how the people leave when you get to talking that educational shit? They only want the smoke. When you get to educating people, they leave and then they go into chats and they say dumb shit about cheap freight. How does that not account for what's going on today? It absolutely positively does, because nobody would be in this room. You know why? Because some old white guy whose family owns specific routes to move commodities down the highways and the byways of America would own these routes for over 40, 50, 60 years ago. And now 45, 44, 45 years later, after inflation from when it was deregulated, these routes would go for 9, 10, and maybe $1 billion plus, right? You wouldn't be able to afford to buy one. So how it don't account for what's going on today? We wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Nobody would be in trucking as an owner or operator. It absolutely, positively, 100% accounts for what's going on today. We can debate it. I need the bread, though. I'm not debating that. I need 10. Bring the salt buck. We could put it into escrow. We could hire a mediator. Bring the salt buck. There's a lot of things that happened prior to our existence that result in why we are in a position to do what we're doing today. So when content creator, call me, send me a text message. There's a lot of things prior to our existence that are a result of why we're able to do the things that we're doing today. You wouldn't be a trucker if it wasn't for that. So how that don't got shit to do with what you got going on now? It absolutely positively does, because you wouldn't be doing it. 1965, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Lyndon B. Johnson. I talked about it in the Discord. What we doing right now, what I'm doing right now, and what you did last night, what happened prior to our existence is a result of what we're doing right now. Harriet Tubman. How she had to sneak and educate slaves. I ain't sneaking right now on this platform thanks to Harriet Tubman. I'm able to educate my people and give people my experience because of what happened prior to my existence. You got to be careful of the things that come out your mouth. Most of the shit that happened prior to our existence was in our benefit. And it absolutely, positively results in the way we do things today. You shouldn't say shit like that, brother. Because people can take that out of context. Outside of deregulation and being able to even operate, because now the old white guys who owned the routes when it was regulated and they just were responsible for the tariffs, now it's opened up to a cesspool of competition so that you and all these people can come in. What if desegregation would have happened? That happened prior to your existence. Does that have a direct effect on what you're doing today? You educating people last night, and you did a good job at it, brother. I commend you. Commend Harriet Tubman, though. Be careful. Be careful. Because you're right. So when you say these things, you got to make sure you're saying them in the proper context. Because then somebody will come over here and say, "Oh, well, man, that deregulation." Because somebody, a content creator, said 2 weeks ago, they made a big thing about somebody that called them behind the scenes and, oh, this guy over there with this marketing and shit. And then they come into my chat and then they feel froggy and leap. And then I hold them up on charges. Then it's all you hear is this. Because, see, they get froggy. How you want to try to debate somebody as a subscriber who's trying to come to a person and learn this shit, who's been in this shit for damn near going on 2 decades, and think because you heard one thing, you can try to come up here and hold me up on charges? Like the guy yesterday in the damn comment section. I plucked that one out too. Blaming the damn immigrants for his losses. How? How you gonna blame them? Because guess what? The shit ain't gonna stop. So I had to do a live stream and substantiate that. Guess what? What's going on now is going to continue to go on. It's going to get worse. So if you don't get your shit together, then go ahead and get up out the way, because they finna come take all your food off your table. A lot of shit that's happened in the past is a direct result. So it absolutely, the reason I was able to get in trucking was because of shit that happened prior to my existence. And I'm appreciative for the individuals that made sacrifices prior to my existence for me to be in the position that I'm in today. Whether it was from the government deregulating trucking, whether it was from diversity, equity, inclusion, whether it was from desegregation, whether it was from Harriet Tubman educating slaves and freeing slaves to the point where I'm able to educate my people today and not have to hide and do it. Now, y'all know my mama is an educator. She's a teacher, retired teacher for 34 years. Y'all got to be careful. I know how to present curriculum now. Leverage. Leverage. You always use your leverage. Put yourself in the best position to win. Educate yourself. When a person on that buddy channel a few weeks ago said all that goofball ass shit, I've been tearing a hole in his ass ever since. Pause. That's the problem. People don't educate themselves. Keep on consuming bullshit. And I'm talking about people that's watching Double Dose Twins and all this goofball shit you watch on Instagram and shit like that. Brother, last night, great content, great work, healthy debate. You caused me to do this, so now this ain't no smoke. This is healthy. He got his take, I got my take. Not only do I got my take, I got results. So the cheap freight, it exists to people who say they, who don't know who they is. Because I'm still waiting for people to tell me, see how I put shit into perspective and then it's just motherfucking, it's crickets. Crickets around this motherfucker. We don't know who they is. I asked you to substantiate to me what is the definition of cheap freight. We did a scenario, and to me, it's expensive. I can't classify something that I'm operating at a deficit as cheap. To me, that shit is goddamn costly than a motherfucker, boy. That shit is expensive. Hey, I'm lose 50 cents a mile. That was an expensive ass load. Man, that shit was expensive. God damn. Because you and let some goddamn hillbilly in 2006 go in the trucker report forum and start this shit, and this shit been going on ever since. Subjective. Any questions? Any questions? Rich Jew. Let's see what Rich Jew said. Sorry it's hard to have a friendly debate and message, but I do see your point, View Mark. Yeah, I mean, whenever you can call in, when you're not, tied up, call in. Listen. Friendly debates are healthy. You know why? Because it keeps the creative juices flowing. It keeps the brain working. I thrive off of educated debate, especially among my brothers. You know why? Because we not doing it. We too worried about dumb shit. Dumbass shit that don't got shit to do with shit that's just ignorant shit. I would debate people all day long when it's friendly educational. I may throw some humor in it for theatrics, but at the end of the day, ain't nobody gonna get shot behind it. It's educational. People can pick things out and start conversations and pick things out and start conversations and keep the shit going. What I don't understand is, like what he was saying, people say shit behind closed doors, but then won't come and say it. Now, I know why they won't say it, because they know I chew their ass up. Pause. They know it. I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them. But another thing that I don't understand is how when there's people that are putting out good content that is keeping the community alive, because your favorite content creators that sold you the dream during the pandemic, where they at? They the same place they must be. Listen, I figured it out. Your favorite content creators that sold you a dream in 2021 and 2022, that took your money and left your ass high and dry, that disappeared, who ain't created content and God knows when, going on 2 years now, they must be in the same place where they is at. The same people that y'all saying they taking cheap freight, the content creators and they must be together. They all got to be in the same place. We need to go find them. We need to find they and these content creators that left y'all ass high and dry. See, what it is y'all sit here and chatty patty about people that's in the space that's doing, one, keeping the space dead to the motherfucker. Y'all sit there and create bullshit for people that are actually doing good work, keeping the space alive, creating conversations, creating debates that are healthy and educational. But instead, these people that's running around on Instagram and goddamn Facebook paying for these paid ads, wheeling and suckering people in that's telling you can make a goddamn $1 million or $150,000 by following these 5 simple steps on creating a box truck business. Y'all won't say shit about them. But the guy who's sitting up here, who's taking the time, giving you his knowledge and expertise, who's not misinforming you, who's causing you to think, who's pretty much educating, coaching, and mentoring you, right? On my dime, because my time is valuable. I put a price on my time. My time is valuable, whether I'm in the crib or not. Because guess what? It costs to be in the crib, Bill. Or like Midwest, y'all will create, but y'all won't say shit about them people and them people that's doing the harm. They doing the harm. Y'all won't mention that shit. Y'all spend a lot of time trying to create dissension amongst people who are doing the good deed instead of the people that's doing the bad deed. Y'all spend time on that. Y'all spend time on point trying to figure out point saying they. Great Pole, you asking me or you asking somebody in the chat? What's the cheapest freight I ever took? All right, let's do a quiz for people who've been watching me the long. It's one account that I've talked about a numerous amount of times that I knowingly took a loss on every single day. Which 3PL was that? Which 3PL was it, and why did I say I did it? Let's see who really been following Marky Mark. There's one account that I ran 7 days a week that I knowingly took a loss on every single day, and I gave a reason why, multitude of times. Which contract was that? They weren't skeptical when they were promised a dream, but they're skeptical of the facts. They weren't skeptical when they were promised a dream, but they're skeptical on the facts. Here's the thing. SD Walk said T-Force. Nah, see, come on, SD Walk. T-Force is the contract that really ran me up. D Jenkins got it right. It was Select Express. D Jenkins been following and paying attention. D Jenkins been following and paying attention. D Walk, I'm surprised at you. It was a Select Express. It was Select Express. So yes, I've taken cheap final mile jobs. And I've said the reason why. It was a contract that I took at a loss, a minor loss, right? But my margins were so good everywhere else on the moving side and the rest of my contracts that I took that contract as a loss to keep people employed. I remember Genesis brought a guy in. His name was Tyler. He was 19 years old at the time. He was running the street. He's deceased now. He was killed a few years ago. And there was an opportunity that was presented, and me being a staple in the community, who was running a successful business, I also had a social responsibility to help out as much as possible. So I put him in that position. I remember I had him running Container Store, and they were only paying me $11 a stop, and I gave it to him. I operated that at a loss to help keep him employed, to keep him out of trouble. D Jenkins, you're right. That was one contract. And the other things I did for Select Express was at a loss too, because I was keeping brothers off the street. That was a contract that I knowingly took a loss to help people out and keep people working. was a write-off. And, unfortunately, he still got him who was running the container store. He was running in one of my vans. The street still consumed him. See, it's a lot of shit that Brandon Williams got it right too. So D Jenkins and Brandon Williams got it right. Forget the name, but you didn't remember the name, but it was the one you kept to keep your workers busy. Exactly. I had a huge social responsibility, and I tried to help out as best as possible, and I did. You know what I'm saying? So, um, shout out to Unknown, appreciate you. I'm thinking about getting into the business and can't decide between cargo van or box. I would do your due diligence, man. Make sure you understand the business, right? Study the different markets, study the different lanes. I don't know where you live, study your market, right? If you're looking to stay local, understand your market, do your business plan. Look at my live stream from about a year and a half ago, whenever I did it. I think it might be locked up in the members only, so you may have to be a member to view it. So you can copy that blueprint of creating a business plan. Make sure you follow all the bullet points in that business plan, because that's going to force you to do the research in those separate bullet points. And by doing that research, it's going to also give you an understanding of what you're investing into. If you plan on going local, if you plan on going over the road, study over the road, the costs that are associated with it, and then do a comparison analysis between locally and OTR to help you fully understand the industry in totality, to ultimately help you determine which route you want to go in, right? Because I see it so many times, people won't do this. We have these case studies week by week by week on the call-in show. Actually, I had one guy in the Discord. He may be watching. Real good brother. Went out and bought a brand new Sprinter, the biggest Sprinter van you can buy, the highest roof, the longest wheelbase, right? Successful brother in other forms of business, right? Which afforded him the opportunity to buy this, right? But didn't really fully understand what he was investing into. And now he has this equipment because he didn't do a business plan, and he doesn't know what to do with it. So the van is just sitting and he's paying that note. Luckily for him, and this is how I know he didn't do his due diligence, he's in a market that is perfect for a cargo van. He's in San Francisco. He's in Silicon Valley. It's nothing but opportunity. It's known that Silicon Valley is one of the biggest gig marketplaces that there is, because that's where it's founded. So pretty much everybody that works out there in tech, they utilize all these apps for package delivery, food delivery, so on and so forth. Now, Oakland, you know what I'm saying, the Valley, it's something left to be desired. But he didn't know that because he didn't do a market analysis. And then there's people that, you got to do a market analysis. Well, here's why you should do one, so that you can understand your market. People go out and buy equipment and don't even understand the business, and now the equipment is just sitting collecting dust and costing. No, have a full understanding of what you're getting into before you get into it. Shout out to Chad Smith for becoming a member. Floyd Lee, what's going on? Don't remember the 3PL, but you did ran without getting paid because they was trying to squeeze you out of business, but you had capital. That's another contract. I know what you're talking about. That's another contract. They got it right, though, the Select Express one. Yo, what's good, fam? Just got on. I'm going to watch the playback. Yeah, go ahead and watch the playback, man. I name dropped you a few times, pimp. I name dropped you a few times, pimp. Polo, in 2009, there was a run I used to do. Was paying $4 a mile, but around 2010, that lane rates dropped to 80 cents a mile. CPM never came back. Even Mark can contest. Even a paid off truck is at a loss at an 80 cost per mile. If you're probably operating that in the semi truck lane, depending on the climate of the economy at that time, it's a possibility it could be. You know what I'm saying? And when I say the economical climate, things fluctuate as far as cost, fuel, insurance, and things of that nature. So when I say that, I'm speaking from that perspective. I've done a lot of research to the point almost freezing and doing out of fear. Nothing but number one thing, old van or truck, keep overhead low. Always try to keep your overhead as low as possible. Over the next few years, I think with the influx of uh, new citizens, they ain't citizens yet, but they gonna be citizens for the most part. Because they ain't gonna round up everybody. Depending on who get in the office, even if Trump gets in, they ain't gonna be able to round up everybody. All right. So let's just keep it a buck, And I did this live stream yesterday. And the reason why I did that live stream is because something that was put in. Listen, I love taking information and talking about it and debating on it. You know what I'm saying? With the influx of people that are coming into this country who have a lifestyle of their life is delayed gratification, you know, ultimately things are going to change, right? So understanding the current marketplace that you're entering into, but also doing a forecast on what's to come and being prepared for it, right? Um, is good. So you want to make sure that your cost is as low as possible so that you can not only compete now, but as things change, whether they change for the good or the bad, you can be able to compete at a later time as well. So it's very important. It's very important. So, all right, man. I think I've done what I needed to do. I still waiting on they. All right. You can email me, mark@thementormark.com, if you ever find out or figure out who they is. Now, everybody that keeps saying they, I'm waiting on the email to let me know who they is because I really want to have a conversation with these individuals. I want to see if I can get them on the show. I want to see if I can get they on the show. And I'm going to go try to round up some of your favorite content creators that sold y'all a dream 2 years ago that disappeared. I'm going to see if I can get them because 9 times out of 10, they probably in the same place. We're going to go do some research. We're going to go find, I might hire a private investigator on my dime. Don't worry about it. I got you. It's for the culture. It's for the culture. Listen, I might hire a private investigator to see if he can actually find who they is and the content creators. I'm willing to bet they're in the same place, all right? I'm willing to bet that they in the same damn place, all right? So I'm going to go now. We're going to be on the lookout for they, all right? And that's it. I think I'm going to go over to the Discord now and chop it up with the people over there. Y'all have a good day.